Dr. Cuenca, what you were talking about there, this idea of democracy. A lot of times we are very focused on, for lack of a better word, kind of the bottom line of even an individual's bottom line, and that and these outcomes are all kind of justifiably about the individual. But it sounds like you're talking about we need something. I don't know if greater is the word, but something a little more external.
All I think I need to do is we need to repurpose the way that we think about education. We need to have a conversation about purposes. And I think what we've been left with is economic purposes. And that's okay. You know, students need to find jobs. But we also need to think about what the broader purposes of education ought to be. Citizenship, democracy, searching for justice, equity. Those are things that need to be captured in some way, shape, or form through the state, with our schools, you know, our social studies teachers. I'm particularly biased toward them. But we need to find a way to capture this in some way, shape, or form and value that. Value community investments. If we simply just look at ELA and math standards and how those things are helping us get jobs or get into college, which I'll argue college is also a career-focused enterprise, so you go to college to get a job, which means that standards are career and career-ready. If we're simply focusing on that, then it's a very myopic vision of what our society should look like in the future.
That's especially necessary for underserved students, right? So education is supposed to be the pathway to equity.
Right.
If you're not focused on equity through education, it can't be a pathway, especially for those kids that are in marginalized groups, first-generation American students, young people growing up in poverty. It's impossible if we don't take that focus. Yeah.
Are we giving our students enough credit? These are some pretty lofty ideas we're talking about. Can our kids handle these kind of?
Our kids can handle it. You know, the thing is you never underestimate what kids can do. I don't care what kind of life situation a child comes out of. They are capable of remarkable things. But we have the obligation in schools to set a high bar and design our schools to help kids reach that bar. And if we do that, then when they get out of school and head into college or career, they are going to do absolutely fine. Part of it is academics, part of it's work ethic, part of it's learning to problem solve and think independently. And all of that has to come together in a mixture that goes way beyond just standardized testing. And I'm not diminishing the role of assessment. It's critical. But it's not all that there is to the learning process.
Well, Mike, are schools structured to do all that?
I think increasingly they are. It all depends on how much you're willing to customize your school to the learners that you serve. And what I see, at least happening in our school district and in others too, is that we're beginning to do a much better job of asking how do we build schools around our learners while keeping the bar for academic expectations and work ethic high. And it's going to be an ever-evolving process, but it's a heck of a lot of fun. And the kids are capable of incredible accomplishments, and we're seeing it every day with our kids.
What's next for education in this state?
Easy question.
Well, there's a lot.
We've talked about innovation. We've talked about some higher purposes, perhaps, in the way we teach kids to think. What's on the horizon?
I think that is, really what we are trying to talk more and more about is how do we make the educational opportunities in our schools meaningful for the children. We want to engage the children in the learning activities at hand, help them become their own learners, remain very focused on helping them identify early on what it is that they'd like to pursue and make the learning meaningful. I don't think anyone at this table and anyone would disagree that standardized testing is the only focus. Right now it is something that we do once a year at the state level. We have to move away from over-testing and under-assessing. Assessment is critical and teachers do it every day. Learners do it every day. Teachers assess themselves. Students assess themselves. That's where we're heading. I do have to say though that there is a role, I believe, still for standardized testing. If we do want to come up with some measurement, our accountability will not go away. It is still on the horizon. So what's the best way to do that? When we talk about certain children have harder times taking standardized tests, we see that, but the reality is when they exit our schools to be a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, a cosmetologist, a carpenter, you have to take standardized testing. So until we want to continue the pattern of setting certain types of students up for disadvantages? I don't think so. So how do we tackle that so that every child is served and ready to leave our schools for success?
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
One of the things that's going to be critical down the road is when we assess children, the assessment needs to have a learning purpose to it. And one of the challenges that we face in Missouri is at the high school level, the assessments are clear. There's a clear target. You know the target that you're trying to hit, and it's a target worth aiming for. And if we can now with the MAP assessment, the 3 through 8 assessments, create that same kind of clear target, then we're going to have much better luck working with children, particularly children who are in poverty. And with poverty often comes a lot of mobility. They're moving around to different schools. We need to have a crystal clear target that we can aim for so we can help kids do really well in school. We need to teach kids to read. They need to know about mathematics. They need to develop competencies in these areas.
So did we go about this backwards? Should we not have those clear goals for the younger grades first to build on there? Is it hard to do if you didn't have those clear goals to start with?
Well, the standards are fine, but now when we actually get to the assessments need to narrow down and really focus on the most important learning that kids need to actually walk out of school with or walk into the next grade level with. And so doing that will help a lot, especially when you're working with high poverty populations.